Hey friends, welcome back to Reimagined Founder, the podcast. I'm your host and nonprofit coach, Breanna LaShell, and today we are going to be talking about reimagining nonprofits. So I think the time has come that we really sit and talk about what it means to be in the nonprofit space, what it means to be a founder, and how is that different today than it was many years ago, right? Because when I talk to people about nonprofits, the general consensus I get is they're like, yeah, they sound great. But when I think about them, I think about stuffy, corporate people, things that look and feel nothing like me or what I want to build or what I want to present to the world, right? Especially when we're talking about this newer generation, like they want something that feels different than the feeling that nonprofits give us today. So to that, I have to say fair, right? Like to that, I have to say that there's not a lot of changes that's happened since nonprofits became, officially recognized by the government. And that happened in 1969 due to the Tax Reform Act that actually gave us the 501c3 nonprofit designation, right? So if things haven't really changed since the, birth of nonprofits back in 1969, or at least when they officially became something that people talked about and that was regulated by the government outside of just regular social welfare projects, then it makes sense that there's a disconnect to the people who use them and the people who are trying to start them today. So, what kind of shifts need to start happening for nonprofits to feel like something that people can buy into, something that people like, something that people then engage with, something that people trust? Because frankly, a lot of people don't even trust nonprofits today in America. I think the latest statistic that I saw was about 56% of people in America do not trust nonprofits. And that is a podcast episode within itself, right? And so when you think about people not trusting nonprofits, not understanding nonprofits, not seeing themselves either within the leadership team or within people who are actually running and creating nonprofits, then you have this breakdown. And so what do we do? Right? How do we start to shift things? How do we start to make it where nonprofits become a space that we as Americans and we as consumers and we as people who put money into their communities, and so one of the first things I think is crucial for us to start shifting our thoughts behind the nonprofit sphere and start to reimagine what it looks like for us as everyday people to interact with organizations, or what it looks like for people to start founding organizations, is we have to get educated on what a nonprofit is. We need to understand what it isn't, and we have to understand how it works, because there's this big mystery within the nonprofit space that makes it hard for people to get engaged with them. So we have this idea that nonprofits are mystical, they're out of reach, that only certain types of people can engage with them, can start them, can run them. And because of that, we have taken the power and authority that we all have in the nonprofit space and put it to these separate people that honestly I don't even know who they look like or what they are anymore. And we have kind of like, as a society, as people in general, just like dusted our hands of it. And right now, I think it's hurting us, because even though there are things that are hard about the nonprofit space, there's things that, we aren't all going to agree with. Nonprofits are still one of the best ways for people to get engaged with and change their communities. They're some of the best resources for people to get the things that they need to be served in ways that government and the greater society cannot serve them, and to get support for things and initiatives that are important to us, right? A lot of that work can and should be happening through nonprofits, but because we don't know about them, we don't understand them, we're not engaged with them, it's not happening. And because of those same reasons, founders who have a passion for their community, who have a passion for impact, who want to see real change, who's willing to raise their hand, put on their boots, and get in the mud with people because they don't understand how nonprofit works, or because they feel excluded from the information, or because the people who are in the nonprofit world makes it kind of hard. If we're being really honest, makes it really hard for people to engage with nonprofits and to start nonprofits. We are missing critical organizations that would really change our communities. And so we have to start getting educated on the steps to create a nonprofit, on the things that nonprofits do and they don't do, and just how we as individuals, we as founders, we as potential donors, as potential volunteers are a part of this conversation, right? That this isn't a conversation for the elite. This isn't a conversation for, the people who have money, or the people with Harvard educations. This is a conversation for everyday people that we need to start having. So with that, for us to start shifting what it looks like to be in the nonprofit space, we also have to become more impact driven and community engaged. Now, I will preface this that not all nonprofits are bad. Not all nonprofits have, like a community engagement problem. Not all nonprofits are more focused on, the money or whatever it is, right? Not all nonprofits work this way. And we all know this, right? Like, we know that not all nonprofits are bad. We interact with and support nonprofits every single day. I know people who know good organizations, right? So it's not a fact of that there aren't impact driven and community engaged nonprofits. It's a fact that we need more of them. Okay? Because statistically speaking, most nonprofits, over 80% of nonprofit leaderships, do not look like or are not a part of the group that they're serving, right? So there's this disconnect that starts to happen of having nonprofits who have good intentions, who might be doing some good work, but they are not connected with the community that they are serving. There's no one on their board that looks like the people they're serving. There's no one on their leadership team that looks like the people they are serving. There's no one on their advisory teams telling them what this population of people that they're supposed to be serving needs or wants or thinks. And there's no connection with the people that they are serving. And so the people that they are serving doesn't know about them, doesn't trust them, or they're getting resources or good things that they don't need or they don't want. And we as nonprofit professionals, nonprofit leaders, we have to take the responsibility of taking a step back and saying, yes, I have good hopes and good dreams for my community. I have good intentions. I want to see, things restored in beautiful ways. And that is good. That is good work, right? But if we are not a part of the people that we are engaging with and we don't actually talk to them, how do we know that the work that we're trying to do even matters? How do we know if that's something that is like actually solving a problem? Or are we just creating more noise for the sake of doing something good? And that can be a hard pill for leadership teams and organizations to swallow, because while the work you may be doing is good, if it's not actually solving a problem, if it's not actually connecting with the people that you say you're serving, are you just doing it to feel good about yourself? Because you're not doing it to serve the people that you say you're serving. And that's a perspective shift that we have to start making as leadership and as people who think that they want to go into the nonprofit world, as people who want to become founders, or who as people who are like in this space right now. We have to start thinking like, am I doing this for me, for my own feeling good, or am I actually in this for the people that I say that I'm in this for? And if I am, then why am I not connecting with them? Why am I not ensuring that the work that I'm doing matters to them instead of just matters to me? Right? And so this is a bridge that we have to start mining the gap so that we can actually create organizations that people know, people trust, people care about, and that people can support. Because if we are doing something that isn't really addressing the issue, we're creating more noise and more things for our people, our who, to have to clean up, right? Because now, not only do they have the actual problem that they're battling in their communities, but they also have the after effects of an organization that's supposed to be helping them, right? We see this a lot when we think about nonprofits going overseas, right? We see this a lot about like problematic mission trips, right? When nonprofits have a savior complex instead of a partnership complex, then we miss an opportunity to actually love and serve and support the people that we're in this to love and care for and support. So we have to get more clear, more engaged with our people to create organizations that are really doing the work that we say that they're doing. Along with this, we also have to start redefining what it means to be a nonprofit founder. We have to start redefining what it means to run these beautiful organizations, right? Because when I see statistically that 80% of leadership teams aren't a part of the population they're serving, I think that's a real missed opportunity for us. Because if the people we were serving were a part of those teams, were the founders creating these nonprofits, then we would have a much better capability of serving strategically and serving impactfully those communities, because we have someone who's intimately familiar with the struggles that are happening in the pilot seat, right? But so many people have this idea, and I'm guilty of this as well. I was guilty of this when I started my organization, of thinking that a nonprofit founder had to look like someone who was nothing like me, right? They have to look like middle-aged, rich, educated person, just this perfect, saintly, resourced person. And while some nonprofit founders look that way, and that's good, and there's nothing wrong with that, I wonder what would happen if we started seeing people of color, if we started seeing people who just had a high school diploma or who were a high school dropout, if we started seeing moms and dads and teachers and people in poor communities, or people who have actually struggled or overcome addictions, or so many different things, that when we think of this pristine, prissy, uptight, perfect founder, we count everyone else out. But in my opinion, it's those people who serve their people best. And I can say this from experience because at 16, I was a 16-year-old girl who hadn't finished high school, who had no college experience yet. I was a girl. I was a minority. I had no type of collateral. I had no type of special connections within the government, the community. I had no money. I was just a 16-year-old who wanted to do good, who wanted to see people find value in their lives, even if they were being bullied. I wanted to show my peers, the people that I was with right now. I was in the thick of high school. I had just left middle school where I had experienced the most horrendous bullying, where I had been battling depression, where I had contemplated what my life was for. What was the purpose if every day I was being tormented by girls? And I'm a few years separated from that, and all I wanted was to see other kids and other middle schoolers realize that their life had meaning and that their world had purpose, even if they were being bullied. And that desire, that fire in 16-year-old Breanna led to a nonprofit that she ran for 10 years. The least likely person to start an organization, the least likely person to be a founder, the least likely person to make a difference, but who was intimately familiar with the issues that she was tackling, with the problems and the feelings and the emotions and the everything attached to the people I was serving. That is what qualified me. And if I would have listened to everyone tell me that I was not what a nonprofit founder looked like, that I was not educated enough, prepared enough, whatever enough to do the work that I knew in my heart needed to be done, and that I knew in my heart I could make a difference in, then I missed the beautiful opportunity that I had to run my nonprofit for 10 years. I would have missed the opportunity to speak to thousands of students every year, to hear stories of change and of hope and of, just collaboration, of understanding between kids who didn't have a voice for what they were experiencing. I would have missed it, all because I had this idea of what a nonprofit founder had to be, and I wasn't it. So we have to start redefining what this looks like. We have to start thinking about how we as a people make the decision to say, the way that we started this in 1969 isn't the way that we have to end it, isn't the way that it has to be moving forward, and to take a chance of trying something new. And so that's what we're going to be doing in this podcast through my coaching. And we are going to reimagine the nonprofit space. And I would like to invite you to join this conversation, to really take a step back. And if you're someone who has that fire, who has that passion, who has that drive for your people, but you've counted yourself out of the nonprofit space, I would love to speak with you, because I think it's time you counted yourself back in. I think it's time to consider that maybe you are the person for the job, that you are the person for this nonprofit, because you are uniquely qualified because of all the things that you think disqualify you. And you can take it from the 16-year-old who had no business starting a nonprofit but ran it for 10 years, that you can do this. And if you want someone to partner with you to make this happen, I would love to speak with you. So that is our take for today. I'd like to invite you, what do you think about this? What do you think about the nonprofit space? And what do you think about the changes that I think has to happen for us to start reimagining and redefining what it means to be a part of the nonprofit space, what it means to be a founder, what it means to be a volunteer, what it means to be a donor, and what it means to be someone who just interacts with organizations. All the ways to connect with me is in the show notes. And if you're someone who you're hearing this and you're like, I am a founder and I'm ready to take the next step, I would love to invite you into either one-on-one coaching or to join a Legacy Launcher group cohort. All the information for both of those things will be down in the description. And you can always find me on Instagram if you want to chat and see if one of those things is the right fit for you. Okay, friends, I've loved this conversation. I've loved this time for you. Thank you for letting me share my heart and my thoughts and perspectives on the nonprofit space. I'd love to hear more from you, and we'll talk to you next time.